The main point of this morning agenda, of course, is the exchange of views with our dear Commissioner, Mrs. Kadri SIMSON, the Commissioner for Energy, and a very special guest of ITRE Committee, Mr. Fatih BIROL, the Executive Director of the International Energy Agency, on the consequences on EU energy policy 1 year after Russia's invasion and war of aggression against Ukraine. I would like to welcome the two distinguished guests, and of course, with this, it is important to look what was achieved and how we took the necessary measures and very good measures in order to counterattack the actions, direct actions of Russia, and of course the indirect consequences of the aggression against Ukraine, but also to look in the future, because unfortunately the war is not over yet. Some will fear of some escalation, and it's important in this context we need to respond with urgency to the several challenges still in terms of security of supply, maybe the high energy prices, infrastructure bottlenecks, and of course to look to the geopolitical context, which was changed a lot, and what we expect in the coming months and maybe years in the field of energy policy. That's why I'm really grateful to Commissioner SIMSON and Executive Director BIROL for having accepted our invitation to frame this discussion, giving their insight and extraordinary expertise, and of course have this exchange of views with us. We have first the introductory remarks of the two guests, then a first round of political group coordinators or representatives, then the replies, the feedback from them, and then the second round we have already a number of speakers. So please, colleagues, respect the time. Immediately after this, we'll have also a press conference. I will have a press conference together with the Commissioner and Executive Director. By saying that, I go directly to Commissioner Kadri SIMSON for her introductory remarks. Please, and thank you once again for being here.
Dear Christian, dear Fatih, honorable members, good morning. And I'm grateful for Christian and ITRE Committee for organizing this debate to mark the 1 year anniversary of the Repower EU strategy. It is very timely. The Russian war against Ukraine has caused a tremendous shift in Europe's energy system. In 1 year, the transformation triggered by the war and by Repower EU has been unprecedented. In a moment, I will talk about how far we have come in delivering the Repower EU agenda and about what lies ahead. But first, I want to look at what this dramatic year has meant for Ukraine and its energy system. 12 months ago, Ukraine was the main gas transit route towards the European Union, 40 BCM a year, based on the trilateral agreement concluded in 2019. It had a large power sector synchronized with Russian and the BRELL system, even if plans for synchronization with the European grid were in the making. Ukraine hosted 4 nuclear power plants, including the largest in Europe, and was committed to work on improving safety with the help of the Union. It was reforming and modernizing its energy regulatory framework. So fast forward 1 year. Since October, Ukraine's power sector has been under constant Russian missile and drone attacks. The latest took place this night. Ukrainians have endured constant sacrifices. Europe's largest nuclear power station in Zaporozhye is occupied by military forces in violation of all international conventions with great risks for nuclear incidents. Technicians, engineers and nuclear experts are risking their lives every day and this very moment to repair and replace damaged infrastructure. Disruption on this scale could have brought any energy system into its knees, but Ukraine has not given up. It has resisted the invasion, and Europe has stood by Ukraine every step of the way. We were able to synchronize the Ukrainian and Moldovan electricity network in the pace of 3 weeks instead of 2 years, as previously planned. And we introduced a strong set of sanctions against Russia, including the oil and coal. We delivered 1,600 generators and 1,400 transformers to Ukraine, and I set up a dedicated fund with the energy community, which today totals 180 million euros in pledges. As we go forward, we will continue to support Ukraine. Currently, we are working to promote decentralized production of electricity with off-grid solar panels, and last Friday I welcomed the offer by Enel to provide Ukraine panels produced in Europe. And this is just the beginning, and I invite all member states and companies to join this initiative and scale up. And I'm also working with ENTSO-E to make sure that electricity trade volumes can be progressively increased for both imports and exports. We have integrated Ukraine in the gas joint purchasing platform with a view to help secure 2 billion cubic meters of additional gas. And we are working on market reforms in the context of the accession process. And I continue engaging with the IEA to insist that the occupation of Zaporozhye nuclear power plant is a crime and a danger to all, and every effort should be made to create a secure zone. Honourable members of the European Parliament, I wanted to start my remarks with Ukraine because this is not a side story. It's at the heart of our repower actions. The invasion of Ukraine was preceded by manipulation by Russia of our gas markets. To destabilize the Union and create uncertainty, gas supplies have been used to leverage blackmail and divide member states, to weaken the resolve to oppose an unjust and illegal war. And such actions made it crystal clear that the Union should put an end to a massive dependency we had on Russia, built over decades. And this is exactly what we have set out to do with the Repower EU agenda. Many doubted that was it even possible, but 1 year on, the shift in the European energy system is spectacular. Let's take gas diversification as an example. Since September 2022, Russian gas is about 8% of all pipeline gas imported to EU. Pipeline gas imports from Russia amounted 61 billion cubic meters last year. The first gas supplier to Europe is no longer Russia, it is Norway. Some doubted that Europe would ever be able to receive the LNG that was needed to replace Russian gas due to the limitations in the physical capacity of LNG terminals, but facts tell a different story. In less than 1 year, 3 new terminals were opened, and 5 more will be opened by the end of this year for a total capacity of 50 BCM. And in 2022, we received in total 135 billion cubic meters of LNG from the global market. From the United States, for instance, we received 56.4. This is 34 billion cubic meters more than in previous years. The increase of gas supplies from other sources than Russia was almost 10% higher than they estimated in the March Repower EU communication. And overall, the EU phased out Russian gas by 2/3. We backed up this diversification effort with new tools. We have introduced a common storage policy in 3 months, thanks to the work of this committee and its rapporteur, Professor Buzek. And this has worked well. We filled storage up to 95% by November last year, and it's still around 57%. This is more than twice the level of our underground gas storage last year. And we have introduced a framework for a coordinated gas demand reduction. All member states committed to reduce their consumption by at least 15%, and they did so. Demand dropped by more than 19% between August and January, and this helped us to save 42 billion cubic meters of gas. We have set up an energy platform to support diversification and joint purchasing, and we have introduced a mechanism to correct price peaks in the TTF gas market, not justified by the fundamentals of global markets, and we will propose to extend MCM to all other hubs. And we did all that without derailing the Green Deal. Last year, carbon emissions dropped in Europe by 2.5%. An important part of Repower EU was to boost renewables deployment to replace gas in power generation and heating, and this has matched expectations and possibly exceeded them. Last year, we generated more electricity from wind and solar than from gas. So 2022 was a record year for solar energy in the EU, with 41 gigawatts of new capacity installed. And wind capacity also rose by 15 gigawatts. So last year, 39% of our electricity came from renewables. And this wide-ranging change happened not just because of top-down instructions from governments. It was a grassroots movement with Europeans leading the change. They have installed millions of solar PVs on the roofs. They are putting heat pumps in their homes, and they have adjusted their lifestyles. This was sadly driven by high energy prices, but not only. Everyone has played their part. That is where we stand today, but the value of our discussion is not in looking back, it lies in looking forward to the next steps. So let me conclude by making 3 remarks on the future. First, on the outlook for the next heating season. We are in a good position to end this winter without any shortage and to start the next refilling season with confidence and half-full storage. But as Dr. Birol will explain in a moment, we should be under no illusion that things are getting easy. This year will be challenging, and the year after that as well. Many uncertainties remain, and we need to keep a healthy and prudent supply-demand balance. I am going to propose to Member States to prolong the voluntary demand reduction by 15% until next year. This has worked well, and it's the best guarantee to achieve an adequate level of storage by November. We will continue and extend our efforts at diversification around the world and to ensure reliable supplies to Europe. Second, we received last year around 20 billion cubic meters of Russian LNG. I think that we can and should get rid of Russian LNG completely as soon as possible, still keeping in mind our security of supply. And I encourage all member states and all companies to stop buying Russian LNG and not to sign any new gas contracts with Russia once the existing contracts have expired. Committing not to renew existing contracts with Russia is the best way to give a long-term assurance to our reliable partners that meaningful demand will stay. Third, in my view, Europe will win this energy war when we finally deliver on our renewable energy objectives. For me, the end goal of REPowerEU is not to replace one unreliable source of gas with another trusted source of natural gas. It is to leverage Europe's energy independence by massively increasing renewables. We need to accelerate our installation rate to be bolder on renewables. And to that end, we need to take 5 steps this year. First, the dialogue on the RED III must be finalized as soon as possible. I welcome the progress that we have had so far, but we need an agreement on ambitious targets and a robust enabling framework by the end of March. Second, we need to use all the potential, in particular on biomethane and heat pumps. And I will launch a practical initiative to promote biomethane by the end of this year. And you can also expect from our side that we will present a strategy on heat pumps. And third, we need to accelerate the construction of large-scale offshore projects. We have 2 summits this year, one in Ostend, another in Lithuania, and we will need to make progress. Fourth, there is a need to look at green developments to remove a serious bottleneck. And I'm advocating to include green manufacturing in our Net Zero Industrial Act that will be presented next week. And finally, I will prioritise incentivizing renewables in the reform of the electricity market design. We need a reform that will help bring down prices and protect consumers, but also that strengthen incentives for new investments in renewables. Honourable members, 1 year ago, many would have said that ending our dependency from Russia is mission impossible. And look at where we are now. This is thanks to our unity and also the work of this committee. Let me thank in particular you, Chairperson. You have been a great interlocutor, even when we had these difficult choices with Article 122 proposals. And we have come a long way, but we still have a tough job ahead of us. So I offer all my cooperation to you, but only together we will be able to deliver the necessary missing pieces in our legislation this year. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, dear Commissioner. Thank you for all your involvement. Congratulations for everything it was achieved. Thank you for coming so often to ITRE committee to discuss, to take the input from our colleagues, the good ideas that contributed also to the decisions that were taken. And of course, thank you to the whole team from DGNR and everyone that you coordinated for the good dialogue during this year of crisis. And of course, we are looking forward to work very closely together in the future. We have a very important privilege to have here with us today the Executive Director of the International Energy Agency, Dr. Fatih BIROL, extremely knowledgeable, with a very strong voice during this year of crisis, of war, but not only, of course, even before, with the most important challenges that the international energy sector, but also European energy sector faced, and with a lot of very interesting solutions that I'm looking on the website of International Energy Agency. Please, Mr. BIROL, you have the floor now.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Buzek, Madam Commissioner, dear members of the Parliament. It's a great privilege for the International Energy Agency to share our views about the European energy situation of today and also tomorrow. Dear colleagues, 24th of February was a major milestone in the history of energy, not only for Europe, but for the entire world. Because Russia, the country that invaded Ukraine, is not any country when it comes to energy. As of 24th of February, Russia was the #1 energy exporter of the world. #1 in oil, top oil exporter, #1 in natural gas, major player in the coal markets, in electricity markets and beyond. So therefore, it triggered the first global energy crisis with implications for everybody in the world. But of course, Europe was at the epicenter of this crisis. So today, in the next few minutes, dear colleagues, I would like to talk under 3 headlines. One is a congratulations. Second is a warning. And third is indicating an opportunity for Europe. First, now, many people thought, as of 24th of February, and there was a lot of wishful thinking from Kremlin and elsewhere, that Europe, as a result of resisting against Russia, together with Ukraine and the international community, would mean, in quote, Europe would freeze and Europe would have major economic damage. But European countries and the Commission moved in solidarity, in a pragmatic way, and took very urgent and right decisions. And the International Energy Agency, only 1 week after the invasion, on 1st of March, came up with a 10-point plan which we have suggested to European governments. And today, I would like to show you why I think it is time, after 1 year, to congratulate European Union and the institutions. At the IEA, we are a number-driven organization. We make our hands dirty with data every day. So just with the numbers, I want to show you why it is time today, after 1 year, to congratulate Europe and European institutions. #1, we have seen that in 1 year of time, Russian oil and gas revenues, a major input for the Russian budget, declined by a major 40%. This is, in my view, a major help to Ukrainians and Ukraine's defense. And our analysis show that this decline will only deepen in the next months to come. The second indicator, the share of Russian gas in Europe, in a very short period of time, 1 year is very short for the energy sector, in a very short period of time, declined substantially. Another good indicator, renewables. A huge increase in renewable energies, mainly driven by solar, but also wind and the others, huge increase about 40%. This is driven by also by the fact that many countries see renewable energies not only a solution to our climate problems, but also a solution to our energy security problems. Energy security was a key driver of the big renewables growth. Heat pumps, again a big growth. Poland is the leader, but in Finland, in the rest of Europe, we have seen huge growth in heat pumps to reduce the gas consumption. We work very closely with the manufacturers of heat pumps around the world. In Europe, they were always complaining in the past that they don't have enough work to do. Now they are still complaining because they are not able to meet the demand coming from their customers. Electric cars, also a big growth. So all clean energy options increased while the gas decreased. And many people thought and said, Europe has double standards. Europe tells the world that we have to reduce the emissions and Europe is using a lot of coal. Therefore, European emissions will go up. Where is the European instructions, European views? And these views are driven to be wrong as well, because our numbers show that the European emissions decline is a significant 2.5%. So, dear colleagues, last year, in the middle of the first global energy crisis, Europe being at the epicenter, we have seen that all the efforts from Europe and its partners, we were able to see Russian oil and gas revenues decline, the share of Russian energy in Europe decline, clean energy options increase, and the emissions decrease, and we have not seen a major blackout or heating problems. We did have some bruises, economic and social bruises, that's for sure, but this is far less worse than it was thought before. So therefore, my first point is congratulations to Europe and European institutions, including the Commission and Madam Commissioner here. The second point, dear colleagues, is a warning, as I mentioned to you. Yes, we are, as it seems, we are off the hook, if I may say so, this winter. But another winter is coming, the next winter. And there are three factors that are with us now and that may not be with us next winter. So therefore, I see in some government leaders, when I talk with them, a bit of an overconfidence about the current achievements now, and therefore is my warning. My warning is next winter may be more difficult than this winter for three reasons. Number one, this winter we were lucky to import a lot of LNG from the markets to replace the Russian pipeline gas. And one of the reasons that we were able to import a lot of LNG is China, which is the top LNG importer of the world. Chinese economy was bad. Chinese domestic gas consumption declined for the first time in the year 2022 since 40 years. Therefore, Chinese LNG imports declined significantly. Therefore, there were a lot of LNG in the markets, and we could go and buy this LNG. But now, all the indications show that the Chinese economy is rebounding. Therefore, China's LNG import needs will be increasing. Therefore, China is coming to LNG markets as a major, strong buyer with strong financial muscles. This is the first reason of the warning. Second reason, every year, certain amount of LNG projects finish and they come to the market, available for the buyers. This year, 2023, the amount of new LNG capacity coming to global markets is one of the lowest in the history, only slightly higher than 20 BCM, which is very, very low. Therefore, the pool of LNG is rather small for Europe to buy it. This is the second reason why the warning. Third, we have to be honest with ourselves. We have to be realistic here that one of the factors helped us this year to go through without major problems is that we had a relatively, in fact more than relatively, a mild winter. Nobody can guarantee that next winter will be as mild as this winter, and if it is in line with the usual temperatures, then this may be a problem. Therefore, it is my warning here, we shouldn't be too relaxed, too overconfident. We should be happy with our achievement, our solidarity, our unity, our pragmatic policies, but get ready for the next winter, which International Energy Agency is again working with the member countries, providing guidance and suggestions to them. This is my second point. And now my third and last point. It is about the European industry. In September last year, I wrote an op-ed by saying that Europe needs to have a new industrial master plan, because there are two major pressure points. Number one, Europe industry is based on a model which is basically getting the rather abundant and cheap Russian energy. This is finished. There is no going back. European energy in the future will be more expensive than in the past. This will put a lot of pressure on the competitiveness of the European industries, as energy is a big part of the production cost of steel, aluminium, cars, chemicals, whatever you produce. If your energy input is much more expensive than their competitors, you start from a rather disadvantageous position. We read that the current European energy prices came down compared to 24th of February crisis. This is true, and it's a good news. But dear colleagues, even today's energy prices in Europe are 3 times higher than the historical averages of Europe. 3 times higher. European natural gas prices today, which people say came down, which they did, which is right, is 7 times more expensive than in the United States. So US natural gas is 7 times cheaper than European natural gas prices. Electricity prices, which came down, yes, but they are still 3 times more expensive than the Chinese electricity prices. So therefore, we have a fact here, and this will not change broadly. In the future, Europe energy prices will be higher than previous European energy prices and higher, significantly higher than its economic competitors. Therefore, European industry policy needs to change. This is the reason number 1 why there is a new European industry master plan. Number 2, the world is entering a new industrial age, the age of clean energy technology manufacturing. It is the batteries, it is the electric cars, solar panels, windmills, SMRs, and all of them. And who is going to produce this? Currently, there is one country is making a major inroads. It is China. When you look at this chart, you see that China is currently dominating the game. For example, batteries, which is the main component of clean energy in many reasons. 75% of the batteries in the world is today manufactured in China. And the United States came up with the Inflation Reduction Act to be a part of the new industrial age, clean energy technology manufacturing, and our numbers show that even IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act, is fully successful, goes seamless. The 75% of the share of batteries, the China's share of batteries in the world will go down only to 55%. And what about Europe? And I think Europe needs to be also the part of clean energy technology manufacturing. And it is the second reason I believe Europe needs to analyze in the entire supply chain of clean energy where Europe can have a competitive edge and what kind of financial, economic, and also energy policies need to be put in place. Otherwise, Europe industry will be first producing not competitive products and producing obsolete products. And it is the reason why we need to see a new European industry master plan in line with the new cost of energy realities and in line with the next chapter of industrial age. If not, and I am finishing here, I believe European economy will get a big hit, and as the industry sector is a major backbone of the European employment, we will see significant employment and social pressures, and a weak European economy and being less competitive in the industry sector would mean the Europe's stature in the international affairs will be diminished. So these are the 3 points I wanted to bring to your attention. The first of all, congratulations of the last year performance, and heads up for the next winter, and a bit at the longer term, the industry competitiveness and the opportunity. Mr. Chairman, thank you very much for the time.
Thank you very much. Thank you for reminding us some important realities, for telling very clearly what many of us are thinking, that the bad days are not over yet, I hope, but we should prepare maybe for some difficult situation during next winter, and you gave the main reasons. And also, okay, of course, looking to the industrial competitiveness of our industry, an issue very dear to the heart of many colleagues in the committee. I go